Everyone, I am Kasha Avery and I am here to talk about daily art practice. And my guest today is Belinda Fireman. Hello, Belinda.
Hi,
Before
good
we
to be
move on to this subject, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
here. Sure. Um, so I am Canadian. I live in Calgary, Alberta, near the Rocky Mountains. Um, Let me see. I have three children, and two of them are twins. They're leaving me in September to go to university. I'm so sad. I don't know where the time went. And I also have a son who's 14 now, and he's taller than me already. He's over 6 feet tall, so he's just still growing.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I rediscovered my art side about 10 years ago. I kind of shoved it into the background for a very long time, mostly because I was trying to, not consciously, but I was trying to please my father by going into chemistry and then having a family and just avoiding art altogether. So, yeah.
But now you call yourself an artist, and you definitely are an artist. You make beautiful art. And the first time I stumbled upon Belinda's work was online, obviously, and I think it was your portraits, yeah. And they were hand drawn, and they were just so beautiful, and there was so much detail. And at that point, we were looking for teachers for one of our Wanderlust, which is our year-long course in mixed media online. And I just knew Belinda, we have to have Belinda on board. The girl said yes, so we were just over the moon. And right now, I mean, not right now, but just a few days ago, we released a mini course by Belinda, which is called Self-Love 365. Tell us, Belinda, what's it all about?
Sure. So the portraits that you saw were actually, I think, the fourth year of that project, or third, I guess. So it started in, I'm going to say, I think it was 2013 when I got my first smartphone. And my friend Mandy was doing a year-long self-portrait. It was just like a 365 project. So you just take a selfie every day and post it. And I loved seeing what she did, and I could see how she was progressing with it. And it wasn't just, bathroom selfies or whatever. It was very artistically done. And I got my phone end of December, and I'm very much like, a perfectionist, and I like order and things. So seeing that January 1st was coming around, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start a project just like this. So I started that selfie project, just taking a picture a day for a year. And the goal that I had in mind for that was to find myself beautiful by the end of the year. So that didn't exactly work, but what happened was, because I was doing a daily project, like being creative every day, I had this momentum going, and it was like this inertia of this project just kept me wanting to go forward. So I was like, oh, okay, I need something else. I can't do the same thing, but it's, what else do I need? And at that point, where I was in my life, I really needed to love myself more. And I could see how I wasn't taking care of myself. So I decided to start this project. I had seen inchies on Instagram. So it's just little, 1 inch by 1 inch square that people draw in. And I was like, I'm going to do a year of inchies. And the theme will be self-love. And hopefully I'll love myself by the end of the year. So that was 2014. And I drew out January 1st, or maybe it was December 31st or whatever. I drew out the entire year. So it was all prepped and ready to go. And I went and I filled it in. And, I went on trips, and I'd take this like tube of papers with me and pencil crayons everywhere I went.
Wow.
And it turns out that year, 2014, was one of the most pivotal years of my life. So the fact that I got it down on paper, I mean, I don't think it's because I was doing that project. It just happened to be such a big turmoil year for me. And it's all captured in images.
That's amazing. And this course, mini course, is about creating that habit and that practice of making those little 1 inch big uh, sketches, drawings, marks.
Yeah, so the course is, I'm going to show you how to do, we just do a little 5x6, so it's 30 squares. Um, but you don't even have to do that. Like it's, you know, if you want to just do a week, that's fine. I'm not pushy, you know, I'm not,
Should be,
I'm
because
not
it's
going to
good.
be standing there going, well, how many squares are you doing? Yeah, because you got to feel good about it. And I've been reading so many books on habit forming and, you know, perfectionism and procrastination. And the thing that is really sticking with me is if it's not doable for you, you're not going to do it, right? So that's why I like the 1 inch by 1 inch squares. They're small enough. And then you want to make sure that it's a doable amount too. And you don't have to pressure yourself to do it every day either. You know, you could say you're going to get 3 done a week or whatever it is, whatever's comfortable for the person who's doing it.
But I feel like making it manageable, making it small is really inviting and really possible and doable.
Mhm.
And why would you say daily art practice or regular art practice is important? What did it change in your life?
The biggest thing for me, I think, was doing something creative every day made me more creative.
Mm-hmm.
So the more I did, or the not the more I did, but the longer I did it, so the duration of it, as it increased, I just found I had more and more ideas. Um, and not necessarily for the next square, but for other things in my life. And it just allows, I think creativity for me is really about flow, right? And if you're not flowing in one area of your life, it's stopping you in other areas. You're going to be blocked. So creativity, I feel, is at the root of just so many things, so many other aspects of our lives. Like how you get dressed is a creative process, even though you don't think about it. But for me, it really is, right? And if, for me as an artist in particular, if I'm not actually creating something with my hands, not necessarily every day now, because I've done 4 years of projects, I think I've like, I'm I'm good now for a while. um, but at that time, if I wasn't creating every day, then I just felt stalled. I felt like, what am I doing? Like what, you know, I haven't done anything. And it wasn't that I had this, um, it wasn't so much like a lack of drive or whatever. It was just that I felt so stalled. And I would just get down on myself for not creating. But having done just one little square, I felt good. Even though it's small, I was like, oh yeah, well, I did something, you know? So
And
that's the thing.
also later when you finish 1 week even and you have those squares, you know, you have that sense of an accomplishment and you feel stronger and more courageous to do more, right?
Yeah, well, and the other thing too that I want to say is that each individual square, like one square might be the ugliest thing, right? And I'll look at it and go, when I did this project, it's nasty. Like my first square of the year, I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there were a couple of days, so I'd always sit down and go, okay, what do I like about myself? And some days I came up with nothing. I was having such a bad day that all I could think of was shame or guilt or any of those sort of emotions. And so the drawing that would come out would be very like almost a fully black square. But there still behind that was this sense of gratitude of being able to feel those emotions. And so what I want to say is that even though one of those squares might have been visually unappealing, having them all build up,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, this quilt is forming, you know, and it becomes this really beautiful thing, even though the individual components aren't necessarily beautiful.
And it tells a story, right? Like you said, you
Oh
went
yeah.
through transformation over that during that year, and you can see it all on your little tiles.
Hmm. It's the year that my marriage ended. So it was a really big deal.
Really big deal. Do you feel like that daily art practice and, digging deeper into your own uh, attitude regards yourself helped you make some decisions, or had that any impact, you think?
It's a really good question.
Is it? I know it's gonna be an easy one.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever thought of that. Um, I'm not sure if it helped me make any decisions, but it definitely helped me to center around how I was feeling, and to get grounded into where am I at today, because I was like this, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah.
I do art daily as well, art journaling, and mine is very laid back, and just like you made your little squares, I don't put too much pressure on myself. And I can definitely tell, and I've been doing it for quite a few years now, that it helps me work things out on daily
Mhm.
basis. I just have that moment for myself just to think about things, and I don't have to always end up with a masterpiece. I hardly ever do. I never do. But it's not even about what I'm painting. It's about just having that moment that I know I have reserved for just, making some marks and being playful and no expectations at all.
Mhm.
That I give myself, that time to work things out, think things through. And I think also, like you say, with your little tiles, it forms this big quilt, and there is that story that you see and you can remember. Same with an art journal, when you go through pages, obviously, it also tells a story. And I think that's a great thing about doing art daily. Can your project, Self Love 365, be done in an art journal?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Um, and I agree, like it's a very similar thing with the
Mm-hmm.
telling a story. What I was finding with a journal is that I felt compelled to fill the page every day if I was working on a page, and it just felt like too much for me.
Okay.
Um, I mean, my project did eventually get bigger as the years went on, and then I had to just stop it short because it was too much. Um, I see how my kids draw, and they'll just take a little space in the page and do a little doodle here.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, my mind doesn't work that way. I feel like I need to fill the space. Um, but yes, of course, you could do the grid within an art journal. I know some people, so I have a Self Love 365 Facebook group after teaching a few courses, and some people just take it on their own trajectory, and they'll do, one girl, she did circles,
Mm-hmm.
and she would just sort of trace a circle and fill that in and just have them randomly pop wherever. Um, and yeah, there have been a bunch of different of ways that people have done it. You definitely don't have to do it on a separate sheet of paper. In the sketchbook is really great. um, I'm pretty sure that's how I do it in the course. I can't remember. I think I did it in a
I'll get
sketchbook.
that.
I can't remember. But yeah, for sure, it will. A 5x6 will fit in
Fabulous.
a sketchbook. Yeah.
And while we're talking about that daily art practice, making it doable, making it achievable is super important. But there are still days when you don't feel like doing it. I don't know if that's what you felt, but I certainly go through phases like that. What do you do then? Do you push through regardless, or do you give yourself a break? What do you do?
Um, so yeah, definitely had days like that. I mean, if you're going to do 365 days, you're definitely going to come up with those days where you don't want to do anything, or you forget, or something like that. I always just caught up the next day,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a bummer because it's, for me, like, liking the order of things. I don't like how it's not actually capturing that day anymore because I'm not in it. Um, it's just remembering what that day was. So, but I would say because it's a self-love theme, if that's the theme that you're going for in the project, because you can also take it different directions too. You could say, 365 days of gratitude or whatever you want it to be. But if it's self-love, then beating yourself up for not doing a day is really counter to the whole idea of the project. And this is the reason that I ended the project when I did. So like 2 years after doing the squares, I was doing those portraits that you saw. And my intention was to do a full year of it. I was doing a portrait and journaling behind it and watercolor. It was a lot. It took an hour every night, and those inchies do not. The inchies take 5 minutes tops, right? Unless you want to put a lot more into it. But by I think it was about 6 months into that portrait project, I realized how it was taking time away from my family and time away from sleep. And a close friend of mine said, "Are you really, feeling that self-love right now?" And her voice just kind of got into my brain and went, "Oh yeah, I need to stop. Okay, the project's ending right now." Because that's the most loving thing to do. So if you miss a day with a square, you miss a day. Just move on, And there's no rules around it. Make up your own rules. What are you going to do with the next day? Just, carry it forward, right?
Fabulous. I think being kind with yourself is just really important, and yeah, like you say, have to remember about that self-love theme. That's what we're doing here.
And can I just add that that's not an easy thing. Like self-love, I'm still working on it. I have not perfected it by doing that project. There are still many days where it's a rough go. So it's not like it totally changed. It changed me a lot doing that project. I'm not sure it'll ever be perfect though, like it's always there. Yeah.
But I
Being
think
kind to myself is a difficult thing.
it's a difficult thing, but it's also, I think, what you said is very important, because it's important that people know that it's fine for it to be a process. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
start making the little tiles and then a week later you are just all that self-confident, assertive, self-loving person. It's all a process, and I think it's really beautiful. In the intro to this mini course, you mentioned that you decided to share each of those styles online on your social media or on your blog, and that it was quite challenging and difficult because obviously those styles are very personal. It's about things that you love or accept in yourself, and then you show it to people who maybe never met you in person. So that's showing your vulnerable side, and that's very courageous. How do you think that impacted your practice, and how do you feel that showing that vulnerability impacted your relationships with people online?
All pretty positive, I would say. So I think I didn't really look at it as a courageous thing to do. For me, I need that kind of motivation. I need external motivation. So I had to have somebody that I was accountable to. So I just made it everybody. I'm accountable to everybody. They're expecting my squares. And yeah. I think it probably helped me to gain an audience at that point. I had a lot of people commenting on those squares, and especially the ones that were more female oriented. A lot of comments from women. And yeah, it just, I think it impacted people when I'd say, the squares, maybe less so than the portraits. The portraits, because I had a lot more writing in the portraits. So there was a lot more of my thoughts just laid out on paper for everybody to see.
That's
And
big. Come on. That
Yeah.
you not consider this courageous? It's very courageous.
I don't know. I think because I just do it, I don't, it's not a difficult thing for me to do.
Uh-huh.
For me, it's about the motivation and having that. Yeah. Um, so it, yeah, I don't know. I think people really related to the portraits in particular, but the squares as well. And saying like, oh yeah, I get where you're coming from. And, I feel that too.
Yeah.
Uh, so it felt good to know that I'm helping people to see that they're not alone, I guess, in certain respects.
I think also what you said, that it helped you build an audience, because obviously if you post regularly there will be more and more people comment. But I think also it's really important here what you've done, because if it was sharing your vulnerable side, um when you do vulnerable stuff online, you obviously aren't there to please everyone. You're not saying something that's gonna be that everyone's gonna like. Some people will understand, some people will see it as a very personal point of view that they can't relate to. And this is building an audience through that is really the
Mhm.
best audience there can be, because these are people who are on the same page and who you immediately have a relationship with. Even if you never talk to them, there are things between you and them that are just in common, and that's priceless. So that's really good point what you said about building that audience through sharing this.
Making me want to do it again.
Go for it. Maybe I'm giving a course. It's called Self Love 365. I'm a very good teacher. But also, I wanted to say something about this, how that helped you stay motivated, sharing with others. I do that when I went through a phase when I was just like feeling like my daily or journaling is going downhill and I don't feel the, power anymore. I started sharing just tiny little shots, clips of that daily journaling on my Instagram stories. And I said to myself, it's going to have to be daily because you call it daily, missus. So it has to be daily. It's no running away from that. People will see if you didn't do it. So you got to do it. And I was doing it I'm still doing it. But
Yeah.
sometimes I forget to record, or, I'm not as stressed about it. But at that point, when I was going through that dry spell, I said, I'm going to do it for a whole month. And I done it. And it just helped so much. So if anyone who's listening is, looking for that extra motivation and help with building that habit, I think sharing online, it doesn't have to be in public. It can be in a little group, or even sending a picture to your mom or sister or friend.
Mhm.
I think that's very, very good idea.
I did notice sharing every day, there is a tendency, at least for me, to get caught up in the likes and how many people are commenting. And, it, you just have to remember algorithms and things that are beyond your control. It's just irrelevant to the importance of doing it every day. Like, it's really for yourself and not for the other people. But um, I mean, it's certainly nice to get the feedback too.
Yeah, obviously, but also I mentioned Instagram stories. You don't get
Mhm.
likes there, and I think if I would be sharing this in my feed, oh, I don't think it would go very well, for me. So,
Right.
so
Yeah, stories is a good way to do it.
yeah, sharing through a platform that doesn't indicate whether people like it or not.
I
Remind me.
don't think there were Instagram stories in 2014. I can't remember, but
No, I think there was Snapchat then.
yeah,
Then
that's right.
Instagram stories. Okay, so lots of people listening to this right now. Well, not when we're recording, but when they're listening, that's right now. If there's someone who really is keen on establishing that daily, we're talking about daily art practice, but they're not sure if they'll be able to, stick to their goal. Is there any tip you would want to give them? Like one thing you think helped you most? What would it be?
Hmm. Oh, I can only pick one.
Oh, now you can pick 7.
Okay.
Pick 3.
I mean, there's a few things coming to mind. One is picking a place and time that work.
Okay.
So if you just have a desk somewhere, or just have it set up and somewhere where you don't have to pull out all your pencil crayons and your paper and everything, like just somewhere where you can leave it and just go to it for 5 minutes. And try that too, setting a specific time of day. If it works for you right when you wake up, just get it done and out of the way, or right before you go to bed. That's typically when I did it. If you have that kind of regularity, it becomes more of a habit. And try setting a timer too. If I only have 5 minutes to do this, and if you want to go beyond the 5 minutes, great. But if you know that you have that set amount of time, and that's not a huge chunk of your day, right? So that's pretty easy to commit to, just 5 minutes. Try that. And also just to remember to be easy on yourself for how it looks, and that if all you can get out is just writing one word, and like it doesn't have to be a work of art. It can just be, what do I like about myself today? My hair. Okay, so just write hair. Like, you don't even have to draw anything, just write it. That's fine. If that's all you got in you today, great. And then you're done. You did it. And then if you're beating yourself up a little bit about it, like, oh no, I kind of wish I'd done more. Okay, well, do more then, or do more the next day.
Fabulous. Love it. And I love that tip about having your space set up. I think this is so important, some way or another. Okay,
You don't
Belinda.
need space for this.
Okay, Belinda, thank you very much for having this chat with me. It was just brilliant to hear from you and about your art practice. I really admire all you do. Great fan here.
Thank you.
Thanks.